Monosodium glutamate, also known as MSG for short, it's a naturally occurring salt form of the glutamic acid. It produces umami, which is the fifth flavor that is perceived by humans. Since the 1930s, MSG gained a very big increase in Asia, where most specifically between the regions of Japan and China. With the improvements in technology and machinery, this led to MSG to become used as a food enhancer in the industry. It gained a very bad reputation after a paper that Robert Mann Kwok sent to the New England Journal of Medicine in 1968. He stated on his paper that after eating Chinese American food, he experienced numbness in the back of his head, weakness, and palpitation. And all of these arguments he blamed on MSG and giving I sparked outrage to the community of bad journalism and spreading misinformation. Hello, my name is Felipe Chinoshi, and my research question is monosodium glutamate controversies and its misperceptions in health and in the industry. One year after the paper was released, on 1969, they made a research to support those misperceptions on the new outlets. So as an example, they started to inject rats with 30% 8 grams of MSG directly in the bloodstream of rats. This, of course, gave damage to the eyes and the brain, also as skin damage. A lot of skin lesions were causing the rats. But in contrast, the actual human consumption, which is dietary, it has an average of 0.5 grams and a maximum of 3 grams, which completely differentiates. Since the experiment that was made, it had 100% more amount of MSG, but injected directly into the veins of the rats. This shows how the researches that were made were very biased and led to many misinterpretations in the new outlets. One basic challenge is to distinguish between two modes of response to altered environments. Evolution, which is the genetic alterations that appear across generations, and phenotypic plasticity, which is the flexibility to alter and behavior characteristics in an organism's lifetime. This is a quote made by Eric Bender, which relates closely to how humans evolved to perceive taste, including umami, as I mentioned before in the introduction, which is the taste that is highly correlated with the identification of protein-rich foods. This led humans to have a higher chance of survival, where they started to eating more fish, meat, and vegetables. This assists them to develop intelligence and more cognitive functions, since MSG is essential to the essential component to the brain. This refutes the claim where they injected rats that destroys the brain capacity. The benefits of MSG in health. It increases the protein absorption, as I mentioned previously in the last slide. With the protein absorption increasement, it causes tissue repair, formation of hormones and enzymes, and bone, muscle, and skin health improvement. As you can be seen on this graph, the black line, it is the protein absorption without the glutamate enzyme. But with the glutamate enzyme, it works as a catalyst to improve the protein absorption, making people with dietary restrictions, such as vegans, vegetarians, or even people with lactose intolerance, it helps them to increase their protein absorption. Another benefit of MSG in health, it is because it reduces sodium intake, since it lowers the amount of salt that is consumed and also lowers the use of condiments. This leads to prevent heart diseases and high blood pressures, and among other diseases. The impacts that of MSG in industry. MSG has a cheap mass production, which is a very good and cheap way to enhance flavor at a low price. It also improves the nutritional factors, as I mentioned before, that it boosts the protein absorption in foods. MSG also has antibacterial properties, which disrupt bacterial cell walls. As an example here on this chart, these are the bacteria that lead to food to spoil. And while disrupting the cell membranes, it lowers the spoilage, extending the quality and safety of these products. So, as a solution, MSG assists in the protein absorption, but as a limitation, it should not replace other kind of foods, because people must still have a balanced diet and should not rely completely upon MSG as a source of nutritional intake. It reduces sodium, but it cannot completely replace salt, since salt has iodine, is a very important ingredient in our health, and it prevents diseases. MSG has cheap production and antibacterial properties, which is a very good way for industries to have a cheap way to enhance the flavor at a very low cost. But another limitation, it is the recommended use of maximum of 3 grams, but 3 grams of MSG, it averages amount of 5 tablespoons, which is hardly ever used. This amount is hardly ever used in one day as a dietary component. In conclusion, nowadays, MSG is regarded as safe for consumption with no reasons to fear. The current scientific consensus regarding the public health hysteria over MSG is regarded to be an irrational preoccupation driven by anti-aging xenophobia. This is my works cited page. Thank you. Have any questions?
Sorry, there's no applause. It's just you and me. So, all right. First question: what information did you need but you weren't able to find?
One information that I needed but I wasn't able to find is an aspect how MSG could lead to obesity. So since MSG enhances the flavor, it leads people to actually eat more, but there are no exactly direct links that MSG actually causes obesity. So the researchers have not found any concrete evidence to fulfill this limitation.
All right, and what advice would you have for people who consider this topic in the future?
So I would recommend people to search for the paper from Sarah Tracy. She has a doctoral degree thesis on all the aspects of MSG and the limitations and its benefits. So I really based many of these arguments on this research, making it more plausible for people to have a more understanding of this perspective.